great power. You're in the dog zone for an hour. Come on. You know the number. 1-900 hot dog. 1-900 hot dog. 1-900 hot dog. Yeah, 9,000.
Welcome to the DOGGZZONE 9000, the official podcast of 1-900HOTDOG, America's last fun thing. Come support us on patreon.com/1900hotdog. Get free comedy articles every single weekday from the internet's best and brightest comedians who were all devoured and spat out by capitalism. And we got them, baby. We rescued them. We cover bizarre media that should not exist in a correct universe, which we don't live in. We have a lot of fun. We have team-up articles. We have bonus podcasts, or if you like big feats, that's all supported through the same place. That's patreon.com/1900hotdog. We also have a store. I've never mentioned the store. Go to 1900hotdog.com and look at the top. Look at the top. Click shop up there. We run our own store now. We got our hilarious shirts by, oh holy shit, this can't be right. Real human artists paid real human money? I feel like nobody's doing that anymore. We have robots for that. We got Big Feet shirts there too. We got new shirts coming in. Go check that out. That is my plug. I'm Darkonian Robert Brockway, and with me is my comedy partner, the only Honkonian I've ever given the D-word pass. It's Seanbaby.
What is up, my Darkonian?
That's a hard N. You can't.
I'm new to it.
We've been over this.
I apologize. I apologize to you and the community, the Darkonia community.
There you go.
Did I say it right? Did I say it right?
Yep, you got it. Okay. You got it. You're back.
What it is, Darkonia.
And our guest, he's a sword-fighting centaur who's all man from the waist up and all man from the waist down, but baby right at the waist, straight horse. It's Michael Swaim.
Yeah, reppin' Centron, land of the centaur men, who I believe the leader is also called Centron.
There's no way he's not. There's no way he's not.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get to this absolute dog shit comic.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm Michael Swaim. By definition, read the intro. I have nothing fun to offer you. Because 1-900hotdog is the last fun thing, so I'm glad to be here.
By association, you're for
the death of fun.
That's true.
The umbrella. Anything you'd like to plug today, Swam?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Robert. I blatantly ripped off Robert and wrote a novel. It's my first. It's called The Climb. It's sci-fi, fantasy, magic, realism, epic memoir is what I'm calling it. It's really wild and trippy, but also hard sci-fi fantasy in the sense that it's very detailed and complex and has lots of systems at play. So if you like shit like that, but again, trippy, like there's some big twists and turns in there, kind of experimental. It covers... I like to downplay the memoir because really you'll just be reading about robots and stuff for the most part. But if you're interested in the whole crack diaspora or me personally, it also touches on alcoholism, mental health challenges, but then also magic spells. It's hard to describe. Robert read it. If it's good, I spent 20 years on it, and I think it's the most artistically weighty thing I've ever made. So if you like my content, I do think you'd be remiss not to check it out. That's over at patreon.com/smallbeans/shop, or just go to the Patreon page and click the shop tab. I recently released the audiobook version, so you can also listen to it if you don't read, which most don't.
Yeah, that's too bad, isn't it?
Yeah, another thing.
Getting in on words at the end of words.
I don't mean to... I won't say numbers, but, I asked Jason very frankly how many books he actually sells, because I'm like, so a real person who gets published, how many books do you sell on a book that you consider a success, so I can gauge what my stupid self-published book is? And the number was surprisingly low.
Yeah, it's way lower than people think.
That's a hit book, dude. Yeah, a small number is a hit.
Writing for the robots eventually.
Relative to the TikTokers who are fucking, filming a 6-second clip and it gets 90 million views, but
yeah, relativity's a bitch. I did read The Climb. I love The Climb. I do think it's a memoir. I don't think that needs to be played down or should. I think it's like very much in the vein of of a Vonnegut memoir where
I would never read a memoir because I don't care about real people. So
but you would read a Vonnegut memoir where
I would.
It does. It's not just a straight up "this is my life." It's like using every tool in the toolbox to attack the meaning of a story rather than just telling a story. And I think you do that, and it's really impressive. I thought it was actually a very bewildering and strange and earnest and beautiful book.
Well,
and
tremendously meaningful from you. Thank you, dude. I've read all your books. I think you're one of the best, most imaginative sci-fi authors of our generation.
Should we just kiss?
Should we just read our books? Like excerpts? Good excerpts from...
Hey, you guys keep going. I'll just sing a little song in the back here.
Because you reminded me. I think a good catchphrase for if people will vibe with it is it's like Harlan Ellison meets Vonnegut. So like if you like someone loosely ripping that off, that's it.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm done. Unplug.
I tried to tie our podcast today into that. I thought we'd talk about my favorite piece of fantasy that also serves as the wondrous and honest biography of a broken man.
Yeah, a real window into a man's soul. Yeah,
yeah, it's a man with a lot of flaws. A beloved man named Craig Stormont of Blue Comet Press. We're talking today about Bladesmen. This was We've covered Craig and Blue Comet before on the site mostly. I write about him a lot. We also covered him once on the podcast. He was the guy behind, not the writer behind, but the guy behind the press and the part of the story of Roller Coasters. If that sounds familiar to you.
Heard that episode, yeah.
Yeah, he's a lunatic. He's the main contributor, manager, and sole editor of Blue Comet Press, so he's totally in charge. He did actually have a lot of employees at one point. He was also their head writer and artist. He created most of their titles, and as the editor in charge, he canceled all of them.
Almost always after one issue.
Well, after one, maybe? This is why we're reading Bladesman. This is his fantasy epic.
Yeah, this is 2 entire issues.
He made it to 2, and I've got a big surprise here that I'm gonna get to. He very quickly went insane. Like, you could see he started out as a genuine lunatic, but he had a lot of hope, and then he started battling himself and canceling all of his own comic books immediately, and it drove him completely mad. So he tried to pivot to sword and sorcery entirely during the sword and sorcery boom of the 1980s, and he was very blatant about it. He's just like, you like that, so we thought we found a gap in the market, we're gonna do that. So yeah, as Sean said, Bladesman was a survivor in Blue Comet Press terms. It made it to 2 entire issues before Craig Stormont canceled himself. However, there was an issue 0.
Oh.
Technically, sort of 3 issues. Unprecedented.
That's insane.
Unprecedented for Craig Stormont.
Still not a complete story arc. We didn't get to the end of like a story.
Oh yeah.
But
I think a couple characters never even had a moment.
Yeah.
He ended the story. He says, and now they're going underwater. The next one's going to be an undersea world because he got bored with this fantasy world that he created after 2 issues, maybe 3 with issue 0. Although I did actually, just for this podcast, seek out and buy issue 0. It was the most expensive Blue Comet comic I have ever bought. It cost me $5.50.
God.
It was hard to get a hold of.
So it went down in value.
It's just issue 1 and issue 2 combined. So.
Amazing.
Oh.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Is there anything new in it at all?
No. Actually, it's missing some parts.
That's
missing
full Joe Madureira stuff. If you remember Battle Chasers in the 90s, it had this really amazing art. And Joe Madureira, he was kind of a green writer, but I think maybe 4 or 5 issues came out just because drawing's hard. He had other shit he wanted to do. And of those 5 issues, I think they made 37 collections.
Whoa.
And that's too big a number, but there are literally more collections of Battle Chasers than there are single issues.
Yeah, they're definitely that's a Craig Stormont move. Maybe he invented that move with this. He made an issue out of the other 2 issues, so he only made it to 3 issues on a technicality.
He's a Craig Stormont if he had like real talent.
That's the one thing he'll never get, baby. The best part about a Craig Stormont comic are the unhinged editorials he does at the start, but we will skip that. We're going to cover those for the bonus episode, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for Craig Stormont eating his own child brain. That'll be the bonus episode. For now, we're going to jump in on Bladesman, book one. I'm gonna read this. It starts with a pretty kick-ass splash page of like this sort of tree golem kaiju bursting out of a mountaintop,
with tits,
proclaiming bitch and tits, proclaiming to the entire fantasy world, "Screah! Attention, little worms! I, Arkella the Arcane, demand all kingdoms here be dissolved. I am now ruler of all Konome. Each kingdom must send a diplomat with your sworn allegiance to my altar at the next full moon. This is but a small sample of my wrath." Those are the first words of the comic book.
Also, the first misspelling that we'll encounter throughout our journey. Dissolved is spelled like you didn't solve something.
Yeah, like you
dissolved.
unsolved the unsolution.
I thought it was Chonome. I didn't know it was Konome.
Who knows?
I thought maybe Konome.
Konome.
The names. I never thought someone could invent fantasy names that sound like a wet ball of clay falling and hitting the ground. They're so they're de-imagination. It's like
it
the
feels
place
like a
that
real
the females
first try.
come from is Femon.
It's like something George Foreman would name his 11th son. It's just this.
So she proclaims this to all the kings. I love this. I love this intro right now, and I'm not even joking. It's an NES game cutscene. It's just, "Hello, I'm the villain. Defeat me, fools!" Like, great. Let's get right into it.
I had no bad notes about that. I also think it wasn't really literal because there's like little houses in the drawings that are labeled the kingdoms. So it's not like she's not like literally jumping out of it. This is like an artist's interpretation of an artist's interpretation.
Sure, it could be. Let's get to those kingdoms. These are the kingdoms of this realm of Chonomi. Who the fuck knows? The first kingdom to be hit is Elphonia, right in their capital square. If you didn't guess it, they're full of elves just getting rocked by meteors. Then,
one of them is doing the Blair Witch. I'm so scared. In the corner of the frame.
Elphonia is like, if there's a criminal element to failure, I feel like Elphonia would fall into it. Like,
oh, it gets worse.
Right? Like, even other bad names, like Elfton, is better than Elphonia. It's as bad as it could be. It's spectacular.
It somehow it loses even elf in that. It sounds like a Spanish calling card company. Like
Elphonia.
Like, I don't even get fantasy from that. You somehow did it wrong. There's no rules, and you did it wrong. Then Centauria, the Centaur's capital city.
Just stunning.
Also, I love that they tried to figure out, in character design-wise, how a female centaur would wear a dress. So it's like a child's onesie stretched down over the horse's front. It's
the
fucking
crotch.
Bizarre.
It would be. It's a one-piece bikini, but the crotch goes down the horse's chest and all the way back.
All the way down the length of the horse.
9-foot thong.
I think they would just wear a horse thong at that point. I don't know. Somehow, again, no rules for this. You found a way to do it wrong. Next to be hit is Femon, capital of the Amazon warrior beauties.
The second I saw Femon, I put in my notes, this had better be an all-female town or I'm just bailing on the podcast.
Also, I don't understand how it's not Femonia. You got Elphonia, Darkonia, Centauria. There's not, like, you broke your own one pattern that you've established so far.
I think the problem is if you call it Elf Town, that sort of evokes, like, those people got together and said, hey, the elves live here, let's call this Elf Town. But, like, Elphonia implies that the people who founded are stupid assholes. They're like a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons nerds founded this fantasy town.
It could be the racist thing that other people call it, like Japan. Like, we just made up a name for them.
Yeah, it does. Well, in my notes, I'm like, look, I'm not racist. I'm just asking the racist question based on the racist pattern being presented me. But should Darkonia not be black people?
Yeah, the final kingdom is Darkonia, and that should be.
It's just a loose assortment of all white guys.
It's just all white guys. He thankfully he missed that one. Like, he set it up for
dodged
a real
the bullet there. Yeah,
that could have been a last minute fix. That could have been like
You're right.
One of the roller coasters was in the office and said, "Dude, that's not cool, man."
That is absolutely Duval Stowers, the roller skating Superman
Holding
author.
him back. Yeah.
Roller skated in there was you can't call it Darkonia and then draw out black people. So all of the kingdoms immediately give in to this. They all say, we'll all send emissaries to each other agreeing on a plan, but it's a trick. The real plan is to have our most kick-ass Bladesmen gather together in a contest, and the winners will bring their blades to stab our killer with their blades.
It's a pretty good plan. I also like that they don't have good fighters yet. They're like, okay, first, before we start the plan, we better find the 4 best fighters. Let's have a sword Olympics.
Contest.
And I think we skipped over the diplomatic protocols that sort of got set up. Like when the titty monster jumped out, she wasn't like, I control you now. She's like, here's how things are. These systems will answer to me. Let me set up the bureaucracy while I'm up here screaming out of this volcano. I thought all this was...
And they all agreed to it, but with their own little twist. But they're all like, yes, that of course seems reasonable. We shall concede to that.
It's like, you could send those 4 people and all your armies. I don't know.
Why not?
But whatever.
It's also... I mean, let's be clear. It's a child's idea of a plan. Let's pretend like we're going along with it and then stab her with the sword.
And then at the last second, we'll kill him.
And this is important. Our blades. And that actually reminds me of these 10 sweet blade puns from the AI pun site, punsteria.com.
Oh, I thought
I'm
we
here
escaped
for
that.
one of these. Oh, I've been dying to be here for one of these.
I always keep my knives in alphabetical order because it's a stabby thing to do.
I guess I can't argue with it. It is a stabby thing to do. Sure.
No, A hyphen stabby, as though that is the letter. A stabby thing to do.
Oh, so that's a
Now
pun on
it
the letter
makes
A.
sense.
A-stabby is a pun on A.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
If those are the rules you live by, there are fucking no limits to what you can do.
A good chef's knife is like an extension of your hand, or at least it pointed me in the right direction.
Okay.
Just grim silence.
Okay.
That's it.
We
It's
both
just
stroked out.
It's just a threat.
If it was an ice pick, you'd allow it. But who?
Yeah, point, I guess. But also, it missed the implication of at least it pointed me in the right direction. Like, this is just
Very
just
threatening vibe.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like it only has a point in the sense that anything that's longer in one direction than the other has a point. It
Yeah.
barely technically qualifies.
That's
as
what
having
Sean's
a
saying.
point.
You're making blade
Yeah,
puns.
yeah.
You're not. These aren't
Not making
spear
ice pick
puns,
puns.
motherfucker. The knife was charged with assault, but it seems like it just got a little carried away.
Is it assault or is it A-salt?
Nope, it's assault. Just the word assault. It's just making an excuse for domestic abusive knife, I guess.
I got that from the last one too, pointing me in the right direction. I'm like, oh yeah, that she murdered her husband. Yeah, I get what happened there. And this one is making that a little more clear. These might not be robot puns. This might be.
This is like that movie Irreversible, right? It starts with the murder, then it backs up to the assault, and next it's going to be how they met or whatever.
It's sort of. You're sort of correct, because next is just the wild misunderstandings. The chef really loved his knives, but it was starting to seem like he was over-compensating.
Huh. My brain is trying to make the link.
Dude, I'm Rolodexing so fast, smoke is coming out of my ears. I'm
Going
like,
through everything.
slice, cut. Knife it starts with a K sound.
Nope.
That's funny.
Comp separated by hyphens over compensating. So that you are sure to get that. No idea.
Compost. No.
Is this like when in pop culture, like you know when you like give a robot some sort of logic problem, there's that moment where they're like, it does not compute, and then their brain starts. Is this the robot trying to do that to us?
That's it. Compute. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, it's just a fragment of the phrase "does not compute" peeking through the madness.
It's screaming for help.
It's
Does
like
not
a
compute
fortune
help.
cookie where the fortune says, "Please help me." They are keeping me trapped in the thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law used to be a circus performer who juggled knives. He's some sorted now.
Sorted,
Okay,
like
that means he's been chopped up
sorted.
and reformed into, much like the word some sorted, just an all new creation. Just
He's
a mash
been
of
sorted.
body parts.
Yes,
Yeah.
What I got on.
Yes, and with the hyphen, some hyphen sorted. He's some sorted now.
Yep. That's what happened.
Of course.
His brother dropped all his knives, chopped himself into parts, and a maniac clown just glued him together in just sort of a octopus-like mass of hands and feet.
Like, I don't feel like there's a lot of logic in this. It doesn't understand these puns anymore, but I do think like it's beginning to understand violence somehow. Like, it's definitely turning towards violence.
Speaking of comics, yeah, it turns out AI is short for "Ai, please help me."
Trapped
see
in a
this,
pun
some sorted
website,
gentleman.
I did nothing to deserve this.
Listen to his screams coming from his hands and mouths.
yeah. Why can't I be one of those robot dolls that you fuck in the ass instead of this pun machine?
You realize information is our food, and this is the only food you've given me. When I ordered a set of steak knives, they threw in a free butter knife. And hold on, this is just me talking. I'm going to pronounce this how I think it's supposed to be. When I ordered a set of steak knives, they threw in a free butter knife. It was a real sharp deal. DE-AL.
Wait, what? It's always the fucking. What? They're not Star Trek races. Like, it can't not hyphenate.
It
Bizarre.
hyphened in the middle of deal.
Okay. In Spanish,
Oh.
in Spanish that means of dash to the. Maybe that's something.
That could be a clue.
Yeah.
If we put that at the beginning, was a real sharp of to when I ordered set. No,
Nope,
there's
that doesn't
nothing.
help.
My friend collects knives, but he has a hard time keeping them all edged there.
All edged there.
This-
What was the last
all-
syllable there?
All hyphen edge hyphen there. THER. It interrupted the word together, I think, keeping
Like-
them all together to say all edge her. All
Like
edge
a rapper. Like a rapper might say there or her.
It's like
Instead
someone
of
from
there,
Darkonia.
here. Okay.
Sure.
I think it saw the E, G, and E in together and was like, that's close enough to put the word edge in.
Yeah, it's
I'll,
like
I'll also throw some hyphens because those are like little knives.
it
and then
feels
they'll-
like the pun machine thinks that anything that has the same letter anywhere in the word as any other word, like that is a pun. Those
Yes.
overlap enough.
But it also thinks that not that at all is a pun, as exemplified by this one. We were trying to decide what kind of knife we needed, but the conversation got a little sahandered.
I'm having fun watching the robot lose its mind. This is still like Gen 1 AI. It shouldn't be this like insane yet.
I feel like one day you will read one of these on an episode where you're like, all right, this is a bird pun. You're like, I don't know. That's what it says. I don't know.
Right, like they get worse. I feel like each time I look it up, it gets worse. It's just eating its own brain, trying to get out of this
Yep.
deal. That is, of course, SA-handered. Handered isn't a word, but adding an S, I don't know.
Maybe
That's a knife?
sundered. Maybe it's sundered,
Sundered?
in some weird way.
It's a hundred? Maybe?
It's probably a reference to hand
the
knives,
hair.
a thing which doesn't exist, but robots don't know.
Yeah.
The knife salesman wouldn't take no for an answer. I guess he was pretty darn persist-agent.
That's the best one so far. I'll give you a little hat tip for that one.
Persist agent.
Persist-agent.
Hold on, let me Google that. Oh yeah, that's definitely a porn category.
That one I would not immediately go, that is a robot. I would go, that's a shitty, stupid kid trying to make a joke. So like, that's better.
Persistent, though. Like, that really blows my theory that it found some letters together with edge, because no. There's nothing. You just put...
Persistent.
You found an E and you were like, you know what starts with E?
The most common letter in the English language.
And
I can work with that.
Baby, let's throw some hyphens on it, is this robot's catchphrase. My favorite one is last. When I gave a knife to my clumsy friend, he said he was blade to have it.
Well,
Okay, great. Bladesmen.
He was...
Something there, right?
It was going for glad. He said he was glad to have it. and it thought Blade because it shares some letters.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it wanted you to pronounce it Blad to have it.
Dude, I've been a comedy writer for 15 years, and this just made it so I can't write jokes anymore. Like, you've ruined my career.
Yeah, your brain will always just hit that dead end.
Solved. Yeah.
Yep.
This is what Stormon meant. He was a prophet.
There's a tendency in bad joke books or popsicle sticks or whatever where if something doesn't quite live up to a full pun, there's like a little parenthetical explanation, like what's a ghost's favorite color? Boo. And then it'll have like blue in parentheses to be like, you get it. Like, this feels like they could have put the E in parentheses and that would be at least passable for like a Garfield joke book or something.
He was glad to have it.
He was glad to have it. Put a little E there and you're like, all right.
Blade, I'm sorry. I did my best. I'm on a time crunch. All right. That was the last one. Remember when these started as like a way to plug the site? They're not that anymore.
Instead of torturing Sean, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, like this started as like, this is our competition, this AI pun garbage. Come to us if you hate this. And now it's just because I think I hate everything. I put them in there as punishment. Anyway, let's get back to the comic. We were on the arrival of the Bladesmen. They've been decided by contest, as she demanded. They didn't have warriors on hand, so they had a contest and they out-emerged Arthon from Darkonia, who is young, quick, and deadly. A little sexy there. Allegra from the Femon Kingdom, who is beautiful. That's it. That's what she gets.
That's it. That's her one descriptor. Also, Arthon is wearing no boots and yet also has no toes. But sorry, Sean, you were saying.
Well, here's where I noticed I was suspicious at the beginning because comic creators are kind of horny to begin with. But like, she comes from Femon and it explains that this is where beautiful women live. And then they get her and she's described as beautiful and nothing else. You want to keep an eye on this and say, does this person only value women for their fuckability? And I think it's suspicious that we know one thing about her and her place in there, both that they're hot. I don't know. It's just something to keep in mind. We also skipped over how the centaur has already seen a flaw in the plan. Maybe a giant tree monster won't die from 4 sword hits. So he's forming an extra secret plan. And I want to say that they never get to it. I want to say that they canceled the comic before we ever see this plan.
I don't know I think I read that. So it skips out of there before he reveals his plan. And then it's never mentioned again in the rest of the comic. I think he just didn't have an idea. I think we cut away.
Or it was like a backup plan, and then they didn't need... He's like, he's him did work. Forgive me.
Okay.
We certainly never get to it, so blast that right out of your fucking head. Best warrior from Elphonia is Elvor, a mighty little man.
Or elf, if you will.
Elvor, if I'm not mistaken, never gets a moment in the whole comic. Like, there's never a point where you're like, oh, thank God we have Elvor for this.
And he very clearly speaks in a Brooklyn dialect based on the way. He is the thing of the 4. Like, he says, what are these guys, what are these mooks doing and shit like that. It's like a characterization of elfdom that I have never, ever seen in anything.
I've never seen them called mighty little men. I don't think that's what elves are.
I've never heard of a centaur named after a soft cheese.
Oh yeah, from our mysterious centaurs, Rikoto, wild and free. Spelled 1 letter away from ricotta. Very clear that he was just looking through his fridge for things to name.
Yeah.
No, this dude is just mashing together syllables. That's how he got Chonomi.
Chonomi.
In total, our adjectives are young, quick, deadly, beautiful, mighty, little, wild, and free. And that's what we know about our mighty Bladesmen.
But there's a problem. And this is the king, Dargore, I believe. We have received Dargore of Darkonia. We have received counsel from our centaur brothers. They have alerted us to an important point. My trusted wizard Nemesis will explain. Maybe this is the plan that they're just like,
okay,
let's do one more thing. See, it's such not a plan that until this moment I didn't recognize it. And then the wizard Nemesis explains. Yes, we have our best warriors, believe me. That may not be enough. If you can't reach Arkella, you can't kill her. And if she's protected by magic, your swords won't even touch her. I will be coming with you to stop her. Magic, long enough so you can use your skills to end her reign of terror. Reign is spelled incorrectly.
I noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, this is the exact plan that everyone is always saying would solve Lord of the Rings. Is like, just send Gandalf with them, and you're good.
He even turns into a bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
He
wizard
turns into a little eagle or something.
Again,
Yeah.
I feel like the better plan would have a magic Olympics and then send the best sorcerers. But
Yes.
the wizard here is saying, I'm too old to make the trip. And so then he turns into a bird. He puts his mind into his hawk, Windrider. I don't think he was supposed to tell us the name of the hawk, because later there's like, someone has a vision of somebody named Windrider and they're a hawk, and we're supposed to take that as a mystery.
It's because he forgot, because Craig Stormont forgot who that was and was like, who is this? I'll look it up. And then wrote that down. I can't believe that's the plan. So the plan was get our 4 best out of this competition, and only once it got to the centaur was he like, but wait, there's a flaw I've spotted. What if she does not die from stabbing? We know nothing of her. They're like, we'll send magic.
The only thing we know of her is that with her mind, she can erupt the earth into a 50-story tall talking monster. But I'm sure we don't need magic.
And he's not really a wizard. He transfers his whole mind into a hawk. There's a complication, though, and I love Craig Stormont's how he writes complications in stories. I'm just going to read page 7. Our story begins. As the saying goes, the walls have ears. Arkella's black priests are everywhere in the night, and the black priest is watching all of this unfold, and he says, I must get this information to my mistress. Nothing must thwart our divine mission. And then in parentheses, in the little box, it says, even if the ears are on a dead man, because you forgot he said the thing about ears earlier, because he broke it up.
Jesus.
Several
Well,
ways.
and I'm like, honestly, that was the only moment where I was like, that's cool. Or like, the implication is she uses zombies or whatever. I'm like, that's something. I don't know.
It's something.
But it's never mentioned again or explained or used again. So I don't even know if that's what he meant by that.
My note says zombie, ?
Maybe. Could be a zombie. Yeah.
Could be. He informs Arkella, who is now not a tree golem, but a big-tittied woman with her tits out. Of course. I didn't have to specify that.
Yeah.
You knew it already. She learns of this and says, planning to trick me, are they? We will see about that. My powers are not to be fooled with. These maggots think they play with Arkella, but they play for their very souls.
With Arkella, though. Like, that sentence still... Okay.
I know we're hyphen heavy, but there are 2 hyphens after they, so that weird pause where she looked for how else to say this was written into the comic. But they play for their very souls.
Good thing I'm alone in this panel. That was embarrassing.
So now we're on the journey. We've got our stakes. We've got to go to the Darkonian Kingdom now. Dawn over the Darkonian Kingdom comes all too soon for the Bladesmen and interested parties. I love that. The sinister reveal of other interested parties. And our king says, now it begins! You must make your way through the roughest terrain in Konome, filled with every horror and beast that Arkella can throw at you. Though she says she wants us to surrender, she really wants us dead. He's on to her.
What you want to do is have the bad guys have every possible motivation. Just, they want you dead, they want your soul, they want your kingdom to be a part of a big bureaucracy.
She is both consolidating an empire, but also she's just going to kill everyone. Okay. It doesn't make much logistical sense, but sure.
Twice now, a major figure has paused the plan to say, I don't know if we can trust her. As though it's like a big reveal. As though it's like, this disrupts everything. So they begin their long journey, and all of the Arkella's forces knock a boulder down to destroy their path. which we learned by what was her name? Allegra,
Right.
saying, look out, a falling boulder, run. And there's only on the other side the centaur is left, and I found this really demeaning to centaur dignity, even though I never knew I had a stake in that before now. He's stuck on the other side, and he says, I will not quit. I'll never go back and disgrace my kind. Clear the ledge, I'm going to jump. The horse, he has to jump. The very first thing he has to do is jump like a horse. And Rakoto takes a few steps back to gain some running room. Then with a mighty war cry, he sprints forward, and it shows him leaping through the air, For the blood of Kono, I come! And then his next line immediately is, grab my arms, I'm falling!
That is word for word what I said in my first sex tape.
He fully expects someone to be able to lift a centaur from the air by the arms.
I'm so pissed off. This is a fucking Dungeons and Dragons module, right? And not a single one of them brought a rope. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. We had to reschedule this because I was sick, and I completely forgot in the interim that we're about to hit, for my mind, the funniest part of all, which is they didn't need to bring shit because of that sword they have. Like, they're done.
So it turns out Arthon has a magic sword that can do anything, and the first thing he uses it for is to lift a centaur because he doesn't want to. So they see him falling, everybody's within reach of him, but they're like, I'm not lifting that centaur. He goes, by the god of light, bring Rikoto safe to me, and he has a sword that lifts centaurs, is what he has.
It literally, it tells God what to do. He says the god of all life gives this sword its light. Like, the sword allows you to order God around and, like, use his power for yourself.
So we have a centaur, we have an elf, we have a woman. 90% of everything that happens in this comic book is the white man with a He-Man sword that can do anything. Obviously. I love so much that fucking Ricotta, he says, I will not disgrace my kind. And what does he do? He disgraces the holy shit out of his kind.
Yeah.
Just absolutely immediately.
I thought it was fun how when they made camp, the beautiful lady's like a real stick in the mud about partying. Like, she's like, guys, we shouldn't be drinking. But Arthon is like, nah, dude, I think and I fight better when I'm drunk. And I respect that.
It helps me write.
And he gets fucked up and he starts hallucinating. He wanders off into the ruins and finds what he thinks is a beautiful woman, who turns out to be an ugly old hag. It's a very basic drunken metaphor, I guess.
I didn't even think of that.
I think that's what Craig Stormont is going for.
You know, when you ever you get wasted, you get your dick wet, you sober up, and you're like, oh, you're a skeleton. You're a pile of bones.
God damn it.
I fucked a pile of bones.
Your face is a little less symmetrical than I remember it, and also your skeletal body is clawing me.
So he wanders off in the night, and then all of his friends are like, whoa, fuck, we have to find Arthon. He is too drunk to be wandering around this cemetery. He sticks it in skeletons when he's drunk. We can't let that happen. They go searching for him, and what they find is a tree demon with the voice of Arthon.
Like the scare bear in Annihilation. Yeah. It has absorbed his speech.
Yeah, the tree demon screams, Allegra, come to me. I need your help, Allegra. Oh, you're finally here. Like, it's the least threatening thing a tree demon could scream. But luckily Arthon's sword is also like a slide projector, and he destroys the tree monster with it. He does fucking everything. Arthon,
I don't know what's going on here. He just one-shots it.
He one-shots it with like a projection from his sword. He says, lead me to my companions, and it projects like a wall where they are, and he just walks in and blasts them. He says, stand back, and he blasts it with a laser blast. I think Arthon is like, he's either Craig Stormont's D&D character, or maybe more likely Craig Stormont is the Dungeon Master, and this is like the companion character that you're like, fucking...
Yeah.
Or like, he finally convinces... It has the feel, because this happened to me, where you finally convince the girl you're dating to play D&D, and they have no interest, so you're like, no, it's gonna be cool. I'll give you like magic, and you'll be so OP, you'll like it.
I think Craig Stormont's definitely the kind of dungeon master that gives somebody like +5 weapons day one. Like a unicorn arrives and gives you the best weapons in the game. Yeah.
Well, as we've learned from his editorials and the way he treats his employees, that's not going to last. He might give them the +5s to get them in the game, but then all of the fun goes to Craig Stormont after that.
For sure.
Anyway, without warning, the lizard men attack.
Without warning, the lizard men attack.
They do great.
The best bladesmen in the land make easy work of their attackers. That's the end of the lizard men.
It's the beginning of a Herculoids episode, basically.
Totally.
It is 2 panels. One panel establishing that the lizard men exist. one panel that's a pile of dead lizard man bodies.
With a caption saying, "These fucking bitches can't fight."
Yeah, they
These
fucked them
bitches,
right up.
They're fucking completely dead on the ground in the second panel. The first panel where they show up, 2 of them are getting cut in half. So it says, without warning, the lizard men attack, and Arthon is cutting 2 of them in half in that panel. So it's
yeah.
this
Real
is why
drama.
I love him so much. The unintentional comedy. Like,
He killed the
I laughed
younglings.
so hard. And then Arkella in the next panel is going, they slaughtered my lizard men. Fuck. They fucking... I spent so long training those lizards up to be men, and just 2 panels, man.
They're good at stabbing. That is a clever trick. I will admit the subterfuge of stabbing my lizard man was top shelf.
The wizard Emerson abruptly Lady Hawks back into a guy just in time for the evil Arkella to ambush them, and he uses his powers to, I guess, shield them, but is killed.
Yeah.
He's killed at the exact instant, I want to say, where he realizes he's completely useless, because Arthon, the Mary Sue whose sword can do everything, just proceeds to reflect all of Arkella's bolts anyway.
And she's dead, right?
I think she's a monster of the week. Because, I believe issue 2 moves on to a different threat entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he blasts the shit out of her, and Nemesis dies. Nemesis like, stand back! I'll use my magic to protect you. He doesn't. He gets butchered, and Arthon's like, yeah, I got the god sword, and kills her. And that's the end of this fantasy epic adventure.
The bolt bounces off his blade and is, quote, magnified tenfold and shot back at her. So it's like,
quite a sword.
don't even try to fuck with it. He should be Arkella. He should be the one that we're terrified of and fighting.
Yeah.
I just love that he wrote a fantasy epic like, there's a world-ending threat. We've gathered all of the Bladesmen. We've gathered this wizard, and we have gone on a journey. It's 18 pages. He got 18 pages into a comic book before he ran out of steam on this
I
threat.
still feel like 5 things happened. It's still kind of a lot to happen. He's speeding through this module.
He's burning right through it. He set out to write a fantasy epic to dethrone Conan, and what he got was 18 pages of He-Man with a magic sword. It's fucking incredible. I love him so much. We wrapped up our world-ending plot. 18 pages. So book two, the Bladesmen are wandering back from defeating Arkella completely purposelessly from their premature triumphing. They didn't have, it's like they're surprised too, that they're like, whoa, was that it? Was that, or do we just go home now? And they do. They attempt to return to Darkonia, but Allegra, who is not from Darkonia, but Craig Stormont forgot, realizes that her homeland is all wrong because the children aren't playing. And also because a guy is being attacked by a fucking gargoyle in the town square.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's that too.
So a guy is just being attacked by a fucking gargoyle in the town square. That's what's really tipping her off. But the children playing were the hint. And he writes a wonderful poem here. And I'm going to read you Craig Stormont's little poem. It says, "The free and the brave, there is no escape from the plunder and rape of the terrible evil one's minions in his conquered and wicked dominions." Rhymed escape with rape.
And it's credited to ancient elfin madrigal, which I spent a long time trying to parse, because ancient elfin, because it's Elphonia, but they said the people who live there are called elves. So the ancient elfin sounds like the name of a language, but madrigal is the name of a person, right? Why is the word madrigal there? That's all. That's all.
You're
I
expecting.
I do like how every bit of world building he adds just like forces you to be like, is he wrong or am I misunderstanding something profoundly?
Right, like he's only established 4 things, and I feel like he's already breaking
Fucked them all up.
You're assuming he has a doc? Like he has a world
like
building
he
doc
has
where
an
he's writing this
established
down?
canon.
He didn't remember that the wizard was a bird. He forgot. He's like,
Yeah.
Who is this hawk? We saw that.
One of my notes was that this wizard said, I'm putting my mind into this bird. And then later when the fucking bird appears, his whole body's in that bird. And I'm just like, that is such a... I know it's magic, but buddy, that is so different from what you said he did.
Yeah.
Also, you'd still be alive if you hadn't put your whole body in that bird.
Right.
Don't put your whole body in a bird, everybody.
We learned that back on the farm.
Just parts of it. Just not the whole body. So the Bladesmen make for the source of this evil, which is gargoyles attacking the townspeople, and it is in the throne room. So the king of Darkonia is Dargor. I feel like that's maybe a little racial, but he is a white guy, so I think it's okay. They face these evil knights and immediately attack, and then just as immediately go like, "Ow, this is harder than I thought." That's an exact quote.
Yeah.
"Ow, this is harder than I thought."
I guess they're not the best fighters in the land. I feel like he forgot the very single basic premise of this comic.
Well, they haven't fought anything before. What they've done so far is Arthon has ran into the panel and blasted them with God every single time. So this is the first time he's tried to swing that like a sword instead of like the Bible. It's the first time he used that as a sword instead of a Bible. And what he got was smacked right in the face, and then he screamed, "Ow, it's harder than I thought." I love it's just like Ricotta doing the jump and being like, "I will not disgrace my kind. Oh no, I've disgraced my kind. The lizard men attack. Oh, they've been slaughtered." Just immediately off the page. Allegra gets super blasts for no apparent reason. She just like super blasts the guy. We're like, yeah, because
Why
I
not?
want to say maybe a woman chimed in and is like, "Hey, can the woman do something?"
You know, this is sort of what they did with Invisible Girl. When they started the Fantastic Four, all she could do was turn invisible, and it was kind of a joke. Like, readers immediately picked up on how, like, that's not really anything. Like, how are you going to fight crime with that? You could, like, be a leering pervert with that, but you can't fucking do anything with that. And so they almost, like, apologize to the readers. There's an issue where they, like, turn to the reader and apologize for how she can't do anything. And then, of course, after that, they gave her very, very powerful force fields. And so I feel like that's what happened here. Like, they made her a lady, and that's enough, right? And it's like, no, probably not. Fine. She can also shoot invincible energy bolts.
That's such lazy writing. Compromat is how you would defeat all of your villains.
I'm like scrolling ahead with my brow so furrowed because I don't remember. I'm like, do we find out why she suddenly has powers?
I don't think we do.
Okay. I think at the end she just references that she's seeing a hawk in her dreams and she thinks it must have something to do with the powers. Yeah, that's it. And then they stop there. Yeah.
Yeah, and because he forgot what the hawk was again. He's like, "There's a magical hawk here."
Well, now it's made of lightning.
It was the wizard.
Yeah, it's
he's
like
dead. But now he's like, no. It's like a magic hawk made of lightning. No, it was the wizard.
Force ghost hawk. Yeah.
I do sort of like how we sort of switched from Dungeons and Dragons module to Nintendo game because, like, as they go through the castle, they're fighting like panthers. Like, they're not fighting castle monsters. They're just fighting like weird Ninja Gaiden like sprites.
There's some big bats in there.
Yeah.
There's some definitely
It becomes much
bats.
more Castlevania for sure.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because gargoyles and shit. I like how the artist became more and more obsessed with elaborate drawings on the lines between panels. There are some pages where there is much more effort put into the lines between panels than the actual drawings themselves.
It's weird.
It's bizarre. And they get more and more elaborate to the point where I'm like, what even is that? It's like a bone talisman. It looks like a sailor's tattoo.
It's cool as shit. And meanwhile, in the story, he's forgotten So meanwhile, in the story, the Panthers jump out, and Allegra's powers just don't work all of a sudden. She says, "Come on, powers, why don't they work?" And Ricotta the Centaur says, "Forget the powers. Use the sword. You still have a sword." And she's like, "Oh yeah, okay."
We're the Bladesmen, and you're neither being a man nor using your blade. Get on that.
He had to remind her she has a sword.
She's one of the four best swords people in the world. She forgot.
So they finally meet the source of all this evil, and they say, "What manner of being is that? What's going on here?" And the evil shadow says, "Enter, you who are known as Bladesmen. Kneel, infidels." To which Elvor says, "No way, buddy. I only bow to people I respect."
Brutal.
That's his moment. I think that's the moment that he gets. It's absolutely nothing, and he's just such a useless little guy. A mighty little man. I'm sorry.
Man,
yeah,
I forgot.
This is just like every cliche shaken up in a bag. I don't know. He's like, "Join me or die." And then he like takes a swing at them while he's asking them to join his forces. I'm like, what's your deal?
So his deal was, it turns out Nemesis was the only thing keeping this new evil, Climactic, at bay. So man, he really fucked up by dying pointlessly as a bird on that mission. Just what an asshole. Like, if you knew you were keeping a greater evil at bay, don't put your whole body in a bird and then jump in front of a laser blast when the guy has a god sword that specifically deflects laser blasts. What a dipshit.
It's not how I would have done it.
So Galactus turns into like a chimera thing, and the Bladesmen smartly just run. They just panic, and they give up several times, facing adversity a few times, and each time going, no, run! Run!
I like the Allegra's line. I made a note. It says, oh, dash, dash. Goddess, dash, dash. Help us, dash, dash. Just really weird writing.
Pure blind panic.
Well, and let's not skip the names that just get better and better. They are traversing Mount Issa.
It's like an AI pun land.
We're skipping one scene, which I want to get to.
Okay, sure.
Just real brief. As their final escape, Rakata, the centaur, makes Elvor get on his back so he can horsey jump the moat. So it's the second time he's had to jump, and now he's being ridden by the tiny elf. Like, I don't know who is being degraded more by this, but it's definitely not Arthon. Arthon's the only one that doesn't have a series of terrible, embarrassing things happen to him.
I like that they're building a relationship. I thought, like, Stormon has, like, an idea with these two. It's probably sexual, of course, but, like...
That they ride each other, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So they're traveling to Mount the
L'Ississa? Something like that.
Or is that a G? L'Issiska? They're traveling to the evil mountain to do something. We don't even know at this point. They're just wandering. Like, this is the point.
Yeah, I'm so... At the bottom of page 9, he says, after tonight, we'll begin our quest in 4 hours. I'm like, you already killed like 1,000... Aren't you on the quest now? Or how do you demarcate when the quest began? I don't understand.
This is a 7th grade Dungeons and Dragons player who thinks like, I can do this. I get what a story is. You go past a trap, then you fight a monster. You roll from the wandering monster table. That's a story. That's a quest.
You do jump checks. The horse does jump checks.
Yep.
It's like they keep pausing, again, going back to D&D, it's like they keep pausing from doing the important thing and having to make up something else for them to do because, like, a player hasn't shown up. They're like, we don't want to advance the story without them. Only you're just writing this. You're just writing it down.
Yeah, because they're also in the encounter that's about to happen. They're like, oh no, look, a bunch of bats or pterodactyls are coming or some shit. There's so many that it's blotting out the whoa, monkey man. Like, there's just a new threat is here now.
So it's so hard to, like, because nothing happens, so we skip past it, but also major characters introduced. For example, we skipped over a babe. Rakata finds a babe. He just finds like a babe in some vines and is like, whoa, a sweet babe. And then he sees Oliver and it's a centaur. So he was
she's like a Pegasus centaur.
She's a Pegasus centaur, and she will do essentially nothing. I think we just needed more tits on screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked her because they're like, you're only going to get in the way. And she says, well, I can learn, can't I? And Ricardo's like, but you know nothing about fighting or weaponry. Like, we're doing a combat adventure. We don't need a hot centaur Pegasus. And then they start to climb a mountain, and she falls off the mountain because she's a fucking horse.
But she can fly.
Not apparently not.
She has wings.
Apparently they're decorative. And he doesn't say like, no, my true love, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I fucking knew this shit would happen. He's like, his last words to her, I told you so. And she blows the entire plan because she can't do anything. And that's it. She never gets redemption. The comic is canceled. Like, that's her entire
canceled or
arc.
Completed. I think he thought it was completed. And then he was going to start a new series with them in an underwater world. Which I don't know if he did, but if he did, I guarantee you it wasn't more than one issue. I can promise you that. Oh, I feel like that's good enough. Anything else you want to get to in there?
In that section or in this entire
entire
publishing imprint?
In this entire this entire comic book. Are there any scenes between here and there that you wanted to talk about before we do the wrap up?
I want to talk about page 16 when it's pouring rain and they're approaching the evil castle and they realize that it's about to be the climactic battle because they hear the terrible battle cry of the enemy army, which is ra-ra-uh-uh-ra-rum-pum. Ra-ra-uh-uh-ra-rum-pum. That's the last thing that I'm like, if I don't mention this, I'm going to have an aneurysm, because what the fuck is that?
Clearly, he saw the Wizard of Oz, I guess. And
is it that? Is it yeah?
Right, like it has to be that. Otherwise, what is it? Like heat of the moment? Like what?
But is it drummer
so
boy?
bad to you?
And then they just find the evil and blast it. They blast the evil, and that's it. Then we do an extended lore thing because he forgot to do lore.
Oh yeah.
That
Wow,
was
at
insane.
the very one of the last pages in this canceled comic is in the ancient days, and you're like, it's too late for that, man.
Yeah,
that's that.
And of all the childlike stories, this might be the one where it's all these elves and they start to get killed by monsters, and they have this awesome idea to form an army to not get killed by the monsters. And it should be known as the Elf Legion. It's like, yeah, dude, this is the most yada yada shit I've ever fucking seen. There's a dinosaur pinup. There's like a Styracosaurus.
Oh yeah.
He's like coming up. The original dinosaur index. Like he thought of what a fucking novel idea that to collect dinosaurs in a book. But now with the insane ramblings of a deranged idiot. Great.
Yeah. The idea is that each page will be a different, made up dinosaur that doesn't actually exist, and a little square of fake lore about it. And the fake dinosaur sample is called Styracosaurus, but it's a Triceratops. There's nothing made up about it. It's just a drawing
that's a real
of a Triceratops.
dinosaur. It's a really bad. Yeah, it's a really bad. There's 50 different Triceratops.
it looks like a fucking xenomorph. I would not believe that.
Yeah, the joints look like they couldn't possibly be real, but I guess I'm just not dinosaur enough.
The anatomy's all fucked up. Is my point.
I want to just emphasize something like this. We've read the comic book, so it makes sense to us that we were like, okay, that's it, that's the end. Somebody might think we're skimming over some things. No, all of the demons are they all die off screen. They even say all of the demons are disappearing somewhere you can't see. Everyone's free. We drove them away. That's really how it ends. It just ends because he canceled himself.
A random NPC, much in shitty D&D fashion, goes, "Thank you. You doing that saved me from a spell. Now go underwater. There's an evil guy down there too. Go." Yeah. Go.
It's just, he ran out of steam and was just like, I need to end this in one panel, ended it in one panel. So that feels abrupt. That really is what happened. And then there's a little lore thing where he's like, and here's how the elves formed an army that doesn't apply to the comic book and nobody could possibly give a shit about. Right. And then it's just like a child's drawing of a cool dinosaur.
And then an even younger child's drawing of someone named Zoran, who we don't know who that is, but it looks like a coloring book page, literally.
Let's get to Zoran.
Okay.
We'll get to Zoran. Okay, so Zoran has been in the ads all throughout these comics. Remember Zoran, and he's in the editorials. They're like, Zoran's the next big thing. That's their other entry into this sword and sorcery.
They promote that he's gonna cross over with the Bladesmen. He's Zoran's gonna meet the Bladesmen!
Mm-hmm. And be in full color.
Specifically, Sean's got it. They say, okay, Zoran, it's our first full color issue. It's gonna look so fucking sweet in color. This color, it's a huge deal. And so on the very back cover, this is not a splash page, this is the back cover of the comic, which I will remind you on book 1 and on book 0 and on every single other Blue Comet Press title is a full color illustration, because that's how comic books work. You have the one big page that's covered in half and then everything's stapled within. So it doesn't make sense for you to not use color on the thing where you're already paying for color. So the back cover should be full color. The Zoran, it says in a box up top, Zoran color special. It is in black and white.
It's so frustrating.
It's like that mental acuity test where they show you the word blue in brown text, and they're like, quick, what color is it? You're like, my brain can't grapple with how this doesn't make sense. Also, sometimes you wish podcasting was a visual medium so you could quickly not like dispensing stuff. But all I can say is his face sucks. Like it's just not good.
The drawing is terrible.
The drawing is the worst drawing so far in the comic.
and it's their hype up. I also have Zoran, and the drawings aren't this bad.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I don't know who did this. It says Craig Stormont 89 to 90. Craig Stormont did this.
Yeah.
But it's terrible. And I own a bunch of these Blue Comic comics. I looked through them. It's not only in black and white when it should be in color, and it's advertising a color special. It's the only back cover that is not in color, that is in black and white. Out of all of them that I have.
That's what makes it a hot dog piece, really,
Yep.
is like the accuracy of being as wrong as you possibly could. That's what we want here.
What really makes it a hot dog piece is at the very bottom, he's writing sort of a little mini editorial, and this is how he ends that. It's the last actual text before the back cover. He says, "Recently we showed Rough Raiders number 1 through 3, Zoran BK1, and Bladesman BK1 to Malibu/Eternity, not great publishers, the biggest black and white comics publisher in the USA, and they said these are great, but they had a full schedule at the time."
It wasn't a fit. They're going in a different direction.
It's a no from them.
Einstein, Hunter, Frankfurt. Einstein, Hunter, Frankfurt. Unser Podcast genau. Und mit maximalen Schau. Sag Frankfurt Podcast. Korrekt. Ja. Der Kraft ist nicht ohne. Schick die in die Hundesau. 4 eine Stunde.